Hello and welcome back to the Rugby Pod. I'm Andy Ryan, Big Jim and Goodey are with me as usual. We'll be looking back on all the confusion, the controversy and the positives in the Guinness Six Nations at the weekend. Plus, we'll be joined by Ireland's Jacob Stockdale to get an update on his injury, his thoughts on Ireland, Ulster and the showdown at Twickenham against England. So settle back, enjoy and make sure you're subscribed on Spotify.
Pod.
Rugby Pod.
Jim, you've been back to school, mate.
I have, that's right. I sent Goodey the screenshot. I passed my motorcycle theory test for the fourth, fifth, maybe, I'll be honest with you, it's the sixth time I've taken it. It's a joke, really. It's not a joke, it's much needed, but my goodness me. You know what it is with tests, and I'm not very good at this. Maybe it's the ADHD in me, I'm not too sure.
Don't blame Mrs. Good.
I wasn't going to blame Miss Good because it's easy to blame, and I'm not going to do that because I need to look inwards. I need to look at myself. Multiple choice. I know the answer to the question, but when there's four answers or four potential answers to that question, I'm thinking, is it that? Is it that? Like, does a motorcycle run on wheels or feet? And I'm there thinking, is it feet?
It's got both. You have to put the feet out, don't you, to hold it up?
Well,
when you park it.
Well, I call my wheels feet. He's got wheels. He's got feet. And there was a few questions like that just threw me, and that's my excuse. But anyway, I passed, and I'm on the journey now to look cool as shit and drive across America like a Hell's Angel without the robberies and the murders and the pillaging. So I'm on the journey, and it's a great start to the week for me. I'm very proud of myself.
This is a theory test that when you've been living at Edinburgh for a while now, but you drove down about 6 hours into England to take it, failed, had to drive back, did it again another time. I mean, we're going back pre-pandemic, aren't we, for that?
Well, it was the pandemic that I had to drive to Blackpool and failed by 1 point. It was a disgrace. It's the different signs and stuff like that. It's like, because there's trams and stuff now, isn't there? There's obviously airplanes, trains, automobiles, cyclists, horse riders, jade walkers, scooters. There's a lot's happened since I bought my test in South Africa. There's a lot that has happened along the way. So Deeks actually taught me how to drive. Brett Deacon, forwards coach for Leicester. So big shout out to him, because if it wasn't for him, I would never have got my first Vauxhall Astra Expression, and I wouldn't be where I am now thinking about evolution and getting a motorbike. Because in France it's different. You don't need a license. You do need a license. You do. But you know, it's the evolution. And anyway, I'm proud of myself. I'm waffling, but I'm proud of myself.
Well done, Jim. Well done, mate.
You sound really sincere. Yeah, you sound really sincere then, Andy Rowe. I mean,
Andy Rowe's coming home. That's why. Andy Rowe's coming back to the UK. He's coming back to Europe. It's absolute bedlam in Europe at the minute, as he knows. And for the listeners, you can't see the background of Andy Rowe. There's basically, are you in a skip or somewhere? Because zero effort is what I'm trying to say. He's thought, I'm coming back to the UK. Fuck it. I ain't bothered today.
Goodey, what have you been up to, mate?
Do you know what? I thought to myself, there's been a few heavy weeks, literally, and there's a few heavy weeks in the pipeline as well. We've got a trip to Dublin, we've got a trip to Belfast, we've got a trip to Manchester, we've got a trip to Liverpool. And so I thought this weekend, no, I'm only going to have 10 responsibly at the game, which I did. And that was it. I got home at a reasonable time after the game, and woke up Sunday feeling semi-fresh. So yeah, I was busy boy Saturday, working a lot at Twickenham, which was great. Massive shout out to a lot of people that we saw there. People love the podcast. I said this to Jim the other day. Who cares about our rugby careers now? Because it's all about the podcast, Jim. We get shouted at down the street. I was on the phone to Jim the other day, walking through the city in London, and some bloke's like, Goodey, you legend. I think that's what he said. He might have said you fat fuck. I don't know.
Definitely legend.
He shouted out, and then he messaged me on Instagram and said, sorry, mate, that was me shouting out your name earlier. Love the pod. Does a lot for me. So, yeah, so when you're at Twickenham, there's 82,000 people there. You go into 5 or 6 different suites to do your Q&As pre-match, and, you know, you're bouncing from room to room, and people are saying they absolutely love it. I mean, people are mad. I'm in one room, Jim, and some big unit comes up to me. I say big unit. He made me look fucking small. And I'm not talking height, I'm talking around the girth. I looked at him, I thought, hey, you need to lay off that Guinness. And maybe that's what people think about when I drink Guinness. But he said to me, he goes, Goodey, where's Big Jim? I'm like, fucking Scotland are playing France at home, getting their pants pulled down, and you're asking me where Big Jim, as if he's going to be at England, Wales. He's Scottish. He's like, oh, I thought you lived together. I'm like, I mean, I couldn't
we
live
eat
with you,
together.
Jim.
That's it.
We do. But
what you're trying to say is, Andrew, is that you're bigger than Marcus Smith, effectively. So when you walk into Twickenham, we collectively, but you, because you're holding the fort at Twickenham, we're bigger than Marcus Smith. Is what you're saying, hopefully.
yeah, I don't think so. Bigger than a few of them, but maybe not Marcus Smith. But yeah, good weekend.
Well, it's a good opportunity to see just how big we are. Don't forget, it is the last week you can vote for us on the Sports Podcast Awards. Just head to sportspodcastawards.com to register and vote for us in the rugby section. It'll only take you a couple of minutes. Well, let's talk about the rugby then and have a look at Twickenham. You guys got the win, Goodey, but should you have maybe seen it out a little bit more comfortably?
Yeah, I think when you're 17-0 up, and the dominance we had in the first half, listen, Wales were always going to come back into the game. We spoke about it before. They had some threats. Their back line is pretty decent, isn't it, on paper? I think England will be a bit frustrated with not creating enough chances from a lot of the possession and territory and dominance they had. And, that is the mark of a new team that's put together, new combinations. I've been pretty honest on here saying that we're a team. I think we're a team in transition, building towards a World Cup. And obviously, 9, 10 haven't played together at all, really. Obviously, in the centres, obviously Henry Slade and Elliot Daly haven't played together very much. So it is a lot of stuff is building towards 18 months' time. And there's a lot of learnings to go on out there. There was some good stuff. We weren't clinical enough. Bottom line is, Wales scored 3 tries. We scored 1 that probably shouldn't have been, but it was. And you can get into the nitty-gritty of stuff. Mike Adamson, the referee, gave us a big rub of the green for a lot of decisions. And it goes, that's the way it goes. You talk about the game last year against Wales, and they got the rub of the green and they won from the referee. But, this year, it's great to get a win. Let's not beat around the bush. And I say it again, if Eddie Jones hadn't made those changes up in Scotland, we'd still be on for a Grand Slam, boys. But we're still in the title hunt, aren't we? We may have the 2 toughest games to come with Ireland at home and then France away. But it was a win. And it was a bit underwhelming at the end because, we're 11 points up with a few minutes to go, and then the scoreboard reads, a 4-point victory. It should have been way more comfortable than it was, is the reality of what I'm saying.
I think what we've seen, and I'm happy to fall on my sword, and this has made me more of a Welsh fan than ever, is actually backs to the wall how the Welsh team front up. And I know in the lead up to the game, they lost Manu Tuolangi for England, and that would have been much better for the Welsh team, wouldn't it? Of course, looking at that English team without a Manu Tuolangi, Elliot Daly comes in at 13, Slade moves across to 12. But the way that they fronted up, and the first half, they didn't really fire a shot. And that was what Dan Biggar said after the game. But physically, they were there. Ross Moriarty made a couple of mistakes in the game. But physically, him, Faletau, Basham, I thought Beard played really well in the second row as well. Physically, they took England on. They were physical at the breakdown, but both teams were. And I just thought the battle of the back row kind of summed up the game, because a lot of the aftermath of it, and I saw a few memes going out there about how boring the game was. Brian Moore put a tweet out saying the game went on for 101 minutes or something like that. Apart from the scrums, which were stop-start, I actually saw that as a proper test match. I thought it was physical. Yeah. I thought there was key, big moments which we'll talk about. And I thought Wales rocked up. And I agree with you. And again, it's easy to sit here and open up the referees. And I've been called out for screenshotting the interference of the line-out where Don Brandt scores, and apparently it isn't the rugby values because we're talking about the referee again. But we don't want to talk about the referee. I don't want to talk about the referee. I like Mike Adamson. I like the referees that are refereeing the game. It's a tough job, we've said that. But I'm frustrated that the game has come down to talking points like that. The Ireland-Italy game has come to talking points around that. Scotland were robbed by the referee. We should have beaten France by 30 points. Jokes. I'm joking. But from a Welsh perspective, because I've bagged Wales and I've said that they're going to struggle in games gone by, and I know they lost. All right. But my goodness me, did they front up physically? Dan Bigger again was brilliant. Thomas Williams as well at scrum half. Josh Adams, Cuthbert. To a man, I think they gave everything.
Yeah, Cuthbert was ridiculous. You know, the week that he had, obviously, and I tweeted about it, his baby daughter was born in the week, his 50th cap. People questioning his place in the team because Lewis Rees-Zammit got sent back to Gloucester. My God, Cuthbert, and you talk about best players in the field, Cuthbert was, I think he was the best player on the field. If not, he was up there in the top three. He was phenomenal. And you're right, Jim. Josh Adams, ridiculously good again. But their issue was they didn't start playing really until the second half, did they? When it was 17-0. There'll be some frustrating things. I've got a question, Liam Williams though. Jim, you played with Liam Williams at Saracens, didn't you?
No, he came the year after me.
Oh, did he? I've got a question, Liam Williams though, because as much as I'm with you, Jim, on seeing how the Welsh dug in and they're back against the wall. There's a bit of footballer coming out in Liam Williams. And it's an easy thing to say it's a bit of football behaviour coming out. A couple of things I noticed. Firstly, when he gets sin bin and he slaps the ball out of the hand, did you see him hold his face as if he'd been whacked and he was pretending it wasn't him and trying to make out he got an injury or something? I'm like...
Or he was thinking, fuck, what have I just done? Maybe that was it.
Well, maybe. You're like, that's football. In terms of faking something, an injury or whatever, or holding your face when you've not even been touched or whatever. And then the second thing, when Josh Adams gets over for that try, I mean, what a seed from Thomas Williams as well, right across the face. He's shushing the crowd. They're 17-0 down. He's shushing the crowd before Josh Adams has even got the ball down. It's just two things that I look at and I thought...
It would make a great photo, that, though. Because when it's all said and done, people won't know whether he won, lost or drew that game. Unbelievable photo. Shushing the crowd at Twickenham, you just say you won that day. You tell your kids you won. And you're like, my dad is an absolute legend.
Yeah. So I was just trying to work it out whether, you talk about the values of the game, you talk about how much the Welsh put into it and backs against the wall, but then you've got Liam Williams behaving like that a little bit. It just didn't add up to me, but they were good Wales. People thought they could have got blown away. England kicked their goals, respectfully kicked their goals. The one time they went for a scrum in that first half when they could have kicked 3 points, Carl Sinclair stands up in the scrum and it gets turned around just after, I think that was after Liam Williams got sin bin, wasn't it? And so, England need to take more opportunities. They're creating bits. We're not as what's the word I'm after here? We're not as clinical as we need to be. Once we get down towards the 22. And that's because it's a team that's been put together that's coached by Eddie Jones that's probably still shitting themselves because they've not got many caps, and Eddie runs a autocratic environment that it's his way of the highway kind of thing. So there's a bit of confusion in how England play, and it's still coming through, and they're developing, and you hear the noises that Eddie Jones makes around, mate, we're not scared of anyone, mate. Well, if we play that way at times against France or Ireland, then it's going to be a pretty tough afternoon. But going back to Wales, they were good and they exceeded a lot of people's expectations, including Jim Hamilton's, who's been writing them off for a couple of years.
Should England's try have been disallowed?
Straight question. Straight headline, Andy Rowe. Let's get into it. I tweeted about it after the game, and let's get this right. A lot of England fans coming at me. They're being a bit shitty. Social media and the energy around that has changed in rugby. Again, something I've spoken about recently. Just go and have a look at the comments. Jim Hamilton 4. Follow me if you don't already. I've not done that at all.
You're not buying followers, no?
Not on Twitter, no. But I've not put that tweet out there to cause a stir or whatever. And I know Eddie Jones spoke about the game in Wales where 14 points were scored by Wales that he perceived, or many people perceived, shouldn't have been a try. I'm just pointing that out as a line-out technician, a guru, and the one try that England scored, because it looked embarrassing from a Wales standpoint to concede a try like that where their line-out still didn't function great, to be honest. And we spoke about that last week in terms of how they would function with Will Rowlands, Adam Beard, a Ross Moriarty, a Faletau, and a non-jumping 7 in Tane Basham. And they struggled at line-out, but England have got a brilliant line-out. So we can understand that. But that one in itself, in that area of the field, it looks embarrassing for Wales in terms of Don Brandt going over unmarked. And I just wanted to make the point that the try shouldn't have stood. And we're talking about a glaringly obvious thing. That is my point. It isn't a grey area. It isn't, you can understand how it's been missed. Like, it shouldn't have been a try, full stop. I'm not saying that Wales would have won the game. That isn't what I'm saying. I'm just highlighting that a big decision, a glaringly obvious decision in a test match in the Six Nations between two of the best teams up there in the world, and it's not been picked up with all the technology we've got. Maratoji's closed the gap. The gap's been completely closed anyway. Adam Beard's been bumped in the line and he couldn't get up in the air. There's a reason for that, and that's because it's illegal. So that's it. That's what I put, and it shouldn't have been a try, but it is a try, so it doesn't really matter, does it? But I'm just highlighting that point because you've asked the question, Andy Roach. You want a headline?
I think on it as well, Jim, when you're saying that, Mike Adamson, he didn't ref certain areas of the game particularly strongly at all. I don't think he's a strong character, and I don't want to go into and give him too much stick, but he looks a little bit at times like a bit of a rabbit in the headlights around breakdowns, around technical things like that. And it was kind of like when the Wales boys went over to ask him, he blew the whistle and ran away as if he didn't want to discuss anything. He's actually stood in line with it. So he didn't referee closing the gap all game. Now, I can guarantee you the next game in the Six Nations, that will be refereed to the letter of the law. There'll be massive gaps in the line out and everything like that. And we're in a reactionary world, aren't we? So referees will see that and go, yeah, geez, that got highlighted last week. So we need to clearly make sure that we're on point with that the next time we referee. And yeah, should it have stood? I'm with you, Jim, probably not. But the fact is, was there enough of it? I think Mike Adamson looked at it and probably went, the ball's over the back of the line out before there was any contact anyway, which it wasn't. And the big one for me is Byron McNeice, the TMO. Did he look at it properly? Did he take his time? Didn't seem that way. But like,
it makes you question that, Goodey, to cut you off. It makes you question and wonder the influence of an Alan Wynne-Jones in that situation.
Yeah.
As a forward, as a captain, with the experience, all these things, you speak about experience, I'm warming to that term now. In a game like that, would he have let that go? Adam Beard mentioned it. I saw him mention it. They were moaning about it.
Yeah, two of them went after the referee, didn't they?
But if it was Alan Wynne-Jones,
yeah,
I think it would have been different. But it was just one of them things. I just highlighted it because it was so obvious. And there was a number of other things I'm sure we can go through. Courtney Lawes not being sin-binned, I mean, as well. Whether or not that was a bigger moment, I don't think it was in the context of the way the game was unfolding. But England going down to 14 men at the end. And look, I'm a quarter English. I like England. I like a lot of the players. I played in England. I'm not anti-English, but I'm doing my job and I'm picking up on things. And again, it's easy to sit here and judge and say he should have done that. He should have done this. The ref should have picked this up. But that's what we're meant to do on here.
What did you make of Marcus Smith getting man of the match?
Well, there was a lot of debate, wasn't there, on the TV with the greatest of all time, Lawrence Dallaglio, who sounded very, talking of horses, he sounded very hoarse.
He did sound hoarse, didn't he?
Well, look, let's say he sounded like he'd been out till 7 o'clock in the morning. There you go. That's the Lawrence Dallaglio horse, and he can turn up. And he didn't want to pick it, and rightly so. And I agree with 99.9% of what Dallaglio says. If he tells me the sky doesn't exist, I'll nod. If he tells me that I could swim to the bottom of the ocean and catch an octopus with my toes, I believe him. But what I didn't believe,
not with Mauler's toe, mate. Not with Mauler's toe.
But it's Dallaglio telling you that, though. So if Dallaglio is telling you that, I'm questioning myself, but I'm taking it. I'm going down there to the bottom of the ocean. I'm grabbing that octopus, probably in its eye, and I'm swimming back up to the surface. But one thing I disagree with him ever was Marcus Smith getting man of the match at the weekend, is what I'm trying to say. It should have went to a forward. I know there's a bit of debate around that. I thought Maratoji played the best game. He's played in the white shirt for a long time. I thought Courtney Lawes was brilliant in terms of his collisions, and I would have given it to one of them two, in my opinion. But look, I'm not the greatest of all time sat on TV doing it, am I? So we'll stick with Marcus Smith because that's who got it.
Yeah, it's one of them. It was a bit of a surprise to some people. I thought Marcus Smith played pretty well, but I'm with you. Maro had a big impactful game in terms of what he did. He got away with a bit as well. Obviously, we spoke about that try, but that's just his experience coming through. I think Ellis Genge played really well. Scrums weren't hugely in our favour, I don't think, but the work he does around the park, his ball carrying, his effort. Did you see it towards the end? Did you see him chase back Liam Williams at the end?
That's
thinking,
what I thought. He's quick.
Yeah, Liam Williams, you're thinking you've got a prop, he's done. Oh no, Ellis Genge puts the toe down, and you see him grafting as hard as he can. And he's been in that. It's a big shift for him, wasn't it? He was on for a hell of a long time. Emptied the tank right there, and he kept going back, and then I think he dived to make a tap tackle as well at the end from the pass as well. So Genji was pretty good. Best player on the field for me probably was Alex Cuthbert. I thought every time he touched the ball, he made big impacts. He got caught for a penalty once when they broke out their own 22, which was Jack Noel on him, but he skinned Jack Noel a couple of times, didn't he, or at least once. He played really well. You can't give it to someone on the losing team now, apparently. So Cuthbert was the best Welsh player for me, and best English player, probably Maro or Genji.
Well, let's move on then. Jim, what happened, mate? What happened to Scotland?
Oh, my days. Oh, my days. Grand Slam was coming. The championship, we got lucky against England. And then, there's downhill. And then the skiing downhill as fast as you can. Those boys have gone downhill like you wouldn't believe it. What's happening? Finn Russell's he's had too many five guys. I'm going to say it. The white shirt, and I'm a man of experience in a tight white shirt. Sometimes it ain't the best look. And when you're not working particularly hard after 7 minutes, and you literally walk in when Anton Dupont is playing like a worldie, something's not right there, Jim.
The ref. Shocking. Carl Dixon, mate, shocking. I actually thought he had a really good game. Look, this is a twofold answer from me. So watching it live at the game, and I did an article in the Times straight after the game, and what I saw and felt in the stadium was different to what I watched at home when I watched the game back. I was too harsh on Scotland after the game, having watched it live, because it felt like we didn't turn up, and the energy in the stadium kind of dictated that. But when I went back and looked at it, I thought France were exceptional. So I think in my article, I said France didn't get out of third or fourth gear, if we're using the analogy of 6 gears. But I actually thought they were in 5th gear the whole way through. And there's a load of stuff that happened in that game around Dupont's break off Finn Russell's kick, Hoggy dropping the ball close to the try line. And we could talk about them things going forward. But a snapshot of the game was, oh my Dupont, watching him live, and I've seen him live before, but watching him as World Player of the Year, there ain't a better player on the planet at the minute. I'm watching him both live and back on TV, monstering boys in the tackle. The speed of his pass is phenomenal. His breaks, everyone's talking about it, and I'm just piggybacking what they're saying and reiterating that is the goddamn truth right here, right now. But the way that France played is exactly how we thought if they turned up, they would play. Runners off 9, quick ball at the breakdown, unbelievable tries, UA, bounce the ball, everything, just hysteria. And watching it back, that's exactly what it was. I even think if Scotland would have turned up at their very best, they would have struggled to beat France, because I thought they were brilliant on the day. I know the scoreline's 36 points to 17. Duhan van der Merwe scored a try at the end to kind of save, I don't know if 7 points would have saved the blushes. Maybe it did. Maybe cracked over what it was. But we'll give a couple of positives to Scotland. I thought Duhan van der Merwe, again, was world-class. Mm-hmm. He played for Worcester in the fallow week. Goodey, you spoke about him saying about him turning up for Worcester. He's a big difference for them. Rory Darge on starting debut. 22 years old, Goodey. 22 years old. And you think from a Scotland perspective, we lose Hamish Watson on the Friday to COVID. Nick Haining comes in at 6. Darge moves across to 7. And I've watched this kid. And friend of the show, and our former mentor, Richard Cockerell, didn't keep him at Edinburgh, effectively was surplus to requirements, goes over to Glasgow, carves up, and you talk about taking your opportunity. I thought he was, I said he was the second best player on the pitch behind Dupont. Looking back, Aldry was all right, Penno was all right. Basically, I think he was pretty good as well. But
Dante was good.
Yeah, Dante, what it makes sounds like a rapper. He was playing like a rapper as well, if a rapper was playing a gig, not a game of rugby. But it was phenomenal from France, and it was a real joy to watch them play. And my point being, from a Scotland perspective, is could we have done anything different? Could the team have done anything different? Yeah, we could have taken our opportunities. We could have been slightly more accurate at the breakdown where we struggled because of how France's defence is. But I think we're talking about here the informed team in World Rugby. And when they get it right, they look unplayable. And on Saturday against Scotland, they got it right. And the scoreline probably shows you how right they got it, because Scotland, regardless of what's gone by, losing to Wales closely, smashing England, getting well beat by France, we're still a good team, right? And I feel sorry for the guys a little bit, because it's like, where do we go from here now? Where do the team go from here? We go to Rome.
Spoon game.
Spoon game. It isn't a spoon game, Andrew. It isn't. Don't tell me. But that's what I mean. But you're starting to throw that around now. That again, so that's come back round. We should never be talking about Scotland going to Italy and might struggle. I don't think they will. Italy can't score tries. But the point is, we're going to struggle in Ireland, in Dublin. We are. Of course we are. It's bloody Ireland, one of the other form teams. So how do we look at Scotland? It's difficult, because we haven't really moved forward when you look at the scorelines and the performances. We've not been amazing. And we showed against Wales that we didn't need to play amazing to still be in the game. But we never looked like winning that game. And then we had a pants pulled down. It's a good job I weren't wearing pants and I had big hilt on mopping the floors, because I would have needed 3 nappies. So that's my kind of snapshot of the game. But watching Dupont live, oh my golly gosh, is he good?
Yeah, and I think you look at the game, and I'll be a bit nosy around things that happen in the game. So Dupont's break that led to the first try, the work rate of Finn Russell, he puts the kick through. And Michael, I've watched myself back a few times walking around the field. Normally it was in about the 30th minute. At least I've got 30. Finn Russell, that's 7 minutes in. What are you doing? What are you doing, Finn? You are one of the best players, or you are the talisman for that team in terms of how you play. You're not the skipper. Hoggy's an unbelievable player and a skipper, but when he's on fire and he's working and he's pulling things out of his iris to put people through holes, Scotland are a hell of a team. When he's walking around the field like that and jogging, I don't even know where he's going. He's like running towards the touchline or something, and not even running. It's like the slowest jog you've ever seen. So that wasn't great. Then you look at another bit of skill. Mo Afana's try, and you talk about how good the French were. They were ridiculous. Mo Afana's try where Cyril Bay, midfield, the ball from Bonte out the back, then they go hands to the corner and Cyril Bay gets the ball. A loose head prop's got 6 people on and gets the offload over his head. Just fucking ridiculous, isn't it?
But that shows you that snapshot on that
French.
try, Goodey. Yeah, but that snapshot shows you that Scotland were in the game in terms of their desire to want it. You've got 4 or 5 desperate defenders around Cyril Bay. What other loose head prop in the world ever could throw an offload that made it look like he meant to do it, which he did, and as comfortable as that? There ain't any.
No, but the big things around the game. So Scotland are 12-10 down. The big break from Duhan van der Merwe up the middle. Chris Harris pulls a beautiful line, switches off Duhan van der Merwe, and it's a 4v1. Now, Chris Harris, if he pumps the ball, he throws the long ball to Hoggy, and people, I listened to the commentators, and I think it was Chris Patterson on commentary, was like, he's got to catch that. But actually, it's the pass. It's not necessarily the catch. It's right out in front of him. He's stretching for it. Chris Harris has got to pump the ball, try and fix, or try and at least get Untermack just to stick a little bit, because he's got Price on his outside shoulder. Schoeman's there as well. Schoeman works ridiculously hard, by the way, and he produces great build-on, so we'll have a bit of that. That was 12-10 to France in the 37th minute. Scotland scored that 37 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. You then go into half-time ahead, different kettle of fish. What happens is they then go penalty, France score with Fiku in the corner just before half-time. Back-to-back penalties given away by Scotland. One at the scrum, I think, and then one at the line-out. Then France play, get to an edge. Fiku gets to the other edge and just skins someone on the outside. To score the try to put them even further ahead at half time, and then the one after half time, they score 41 minutes, wasn't it? I think they get, and that try, it's a massive swing of the game, because had Hoggy scored, or had Chris Harris scored, or had Ali Price scored from that break, the feeling in the stadium changes massively, because you're going ahead at half time. Fiku scores just before half time, that deflates everyone, and then after half time, and Ali Price tried to buy a penalty, didn't he, by sort of passing the ball into Cameron Wackey when he's on the floor. And I like the referee saying, don't try and buy the penalty. What he got wrong then, when Ali Price knocks it on, Cameron Wackey's still on the floor, grabs the ball off the floor, picks it up, passes it. Scotland then are sort of at 6th and 7th defensively. France got the outside, put the kick in. Obviously, it's a lucky bounce, falls into Stampty's hands, and they score. But the ref should have penalised Wackey for throwing the ball on the floor.
Told you.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just saying facts. Like Wackey, you're not allowed to play the ball when you're out the game on the floor. So that shouldn't have counted. But those three incidents, Scotland didn't score the try when they were 12-10 down just before half-time. Then they concede. And then the first minute into the second half, France score again. The game's gone. And then France can open up the class of Untermack with a crossfield kick for that try later on. And that's why the atmosphere would have completely died in the stadium. So they weren't that far away, Scotland, as much as, I'm giving you banter on here, Jim, about your pants being pulled down, skid marks everywhere. 58% possession, and you had 18 minutes of attacking possession compared to France's 42% possession and 13 minutes of attacking possession. So France were unbelievably clinical. They've got ridiculous power across the team. And Scotland, it just wasn't their day, and things transpired against them. Finn Russell has had too many five guys, and I think he'll be doing a bit of cardio this week.
Well, there has been a lot of criticism about Finn Russell's work rate. You touched on it. Shane Horgan described it as pathetic. What do you guys make of it?
Well, I've seen the comments and I've seen the clip, and Goodey's alluded to it. And with Finn, you're going to get that, aren't you? I think with any player, you're going to get that in terms of high profile, but any player who's walking back into the line off the back of making a mistake. And that maybe shows that there is a vulnerability around Finn now. If we're speaking frankly, we love Finn on here. I do see him as a mate. I love what he does. I love what he stands for. I love the way that he plays the game, the charismatic, the maverick. But you have to start asking questions, don't you? Because he's driving a Rolls Royce around Edinburgh. The week before, the pictures are doing the rounds. Goodey posted one with his side banana in the win against, after his win for Racing 92, comes back into the camp. And everything you're hearing out the camp, that Finn is an ultimate professional, right? In terms of working with Blair Kinghorn, working with the backs, working with the coaches. So it does matter, right? But the proof is in the pudding, as Goodey knows, as a lot of big people know. It is in the pudding. And unfortunately for Finn, the last two games, he hasn't turned up, has he? For whatever reason, he just hasn't. The issue that Scotland have is Blair Kinghorn isn't the answer. As good as Blair Kinghorn is, 10's arguably his second position. He's a 15. He's a back three player. Adam Hastings isn't even in the squad. You do wonder.
How's Hastings not in the squad? I know he's been injured, but he's been playing pretty well for Gloucester over the last however many months.
I don't know. Maybe it's white eggs out in London. I don't know. Maybe Gregor doesn't like that. I don't know. It's an interesting point, and I don't know the answer. And I don't think anyone's going to tell me if I ask them in the camp. But you do wonder, Italy up next, whether Gregor, and we know there's history between Gregor and Finn, whether a rocket gets put up Finn's backside, whether there be a lot of five guys, maybe not now because of losing that game, whether or not he puts a Blair Kinghorn in or he brings an Adam Hastings into the squad. But you've got to try and find a way of motivating Finn, or I say that because it makes it sound like he's not motivated, but making him comfortable, making him take the reins, because we've seen him have bad games before. We've seen him have bad moments in games before and he literally throws something out. But the way that France were playing, flying up on the outside, pushing Scotland back on the inside, we were getting turned over for fun. It just seemed like when you saw Finn get subbed off after 50-odd minutes, the shake of the head, walking off, it just felt like something weren't quite right. And I just hope he gets the opportunity to put it right against Italy. But the question goes forward, well, what do we do against Ireland then? My goodness me, especially if they beat England.
Well, there's two things in it, isn't there? So I don't think he can afford to drop him against Italy because it is the wooden spoon game. It now is a wooden spoon game, James.
If we beat Italy, Italy and you lose to Ireland, it's all on for fifth place, Andrew. It's all on.
Yeah, true. No, I think Wales finished fifth, but there we go. It's one of them. If Hastings wins the squad, you can't pick Blair Kinghorn ahead of Finn Russell at 10 to start an international game. Nothing against Blair Kinghorn. He's not a 10. He's not an out-and-out 10. He's the sort of player that is brilliant. He can cover wing, fullback, and 10 from the bench, or he can start wing or fullback. But Adam Hastings, got to give him an opportunity. And that's maybe the selection. But Gregor's difficulty is this week, even if he were to pick Adam Hastings has got to be with Gloucester all week. Finn Russell has got to go back to Racing 92 for his €1 million a year contract, and he's got to go and play Perpignan away on Saturday. So He's not going to be able to train with a fly half apart from Blair Kinghorn this week. So it's interesting. It's a real interesting dynamic. Finn's got to look at himself in the mirror, and he knows himself. He's got to do better off the back of that Wales knock on, which, where he gets sin binned, and then his performance at the weekend, which, I didn't think he played that badly. There was some good bits in their attack. I thought he put some width on the ball at the right times. They just weren't sharp enough and clinical enough.
And it was that one clip. It was that clip, wasn't it? I think that's why we're having this conversation, because of that clip that Goodey's alluded to, and that's kind of been made into a big thing. And you can understand why. That's the point we're making around this, I think.
Yeah, and I think his belly button's got a bit bigger as well because of the 5 guys, man from experience, talking about it.
What do you guys make of? Well, it was a bit of a shambles, wasn't it, in Dublin? Italy finished the game with 12 players and had 13 players for about 60 minutes. Can Ireland really take much from that?
No, I don't think you can take anything out of that at all. Yeah, the big talking point was around why Italy had to go down to 13 men. So Lucchese goes off, the hooker, injured, Fiver comes on and gets sent off for a high shot. Right decision, right call. But then what happens is the other front rows on the bench can't play hooker. So you saw the interaction with Mikel Lamaro, the captain of Italy, and he didn't know what was going on. He didn't realise that if you couldn't bring on a front row replacement, then you get penalised by going to uncontested scrums. And by being penalised and going to uncontested scrums, you've got to take another player off. So effectively, that sending off puts Italy down to 13 men. And then you're thinking it's touch from here on in. Simple as that. And that's the big thing, because it's been changed recently by World Rugby. And I know you look at the interaction on Twitter, and because everyone's been locked up for 2 years, everyone's angry generally. And because there seems like there's another war around the corner as well, and rightly so, everyone's pissed off. They're taking it out. They're taking it out on World Rugby. Why not? Let's just take it out on them, mate.
Oh, Bill. Let's blame Bill.
I know. Poor Bill. He's been over in Dubai, meeting the sheikhs and stuff like that, getting free holidays. I know. So it's one of them things in rugby, and that happens, and you're like, well, here we go. Because Italy were never going to win that game, but they were firing shots. Physically, they were firing shots. But you go down to 13, and then, goodness me, Bromstein goes off. You're thinking, well, what's going to happen here? It could be 100 points if there was 10 minutes left on the clock. And it's a non-starter. I mean, what else can you say? How do you even look at how good Ireland are? You can't, because it was a game of touch in the end, as much as Italy wanted to try and make a contest of it.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it was brought in to stop the manipulation of teams using that loophole to go down to uncontested scrums. And, I'm ambassador for Wasps. I played for Leicester for 10 years, and Wasps used to be the best exponents of the old uncontested scrum when their scrum was getting hosed. And it was part of that, really. So there was never a ramification to go down to uncontested scrums. And ultimately, it's the ramification of foul play leads you down that pathway. And that's what it's brought in. I don't know what the right answer to it is. You'd never want to see someone else have to go off just because you've had someone sent off and you have to go to uncontested scrums. But also, you can't manipulate the laws if you're getting absolutely done over at scrum time, which teams have done in the past without a shadow of a doubt. So, it's a hard one. Maybe there's a rule that comes in that says, you have to bring a front row on. Because, a lot of teams are just bringing back rows on, weren't they, to make it a little bit like rugby league. And then you've got athletes, then there's even less space. But you've got to bring your slowest guy back on, or you have to bring a front rower back on. You can go to uncontested scrums, but, you have to have 3 front row on the field that, aren't as explosive or as fit as other guys that you could bring off the bench. So
I've got a much better idea. Andrew, I've got a much better idea. Bring the kit man on. So
yes,
the kit man's got to be ready, and you bring him on. And I saw the French kit man. My goodness me, Andrew, he'd make you look small. I think he had a cigarette in his hand, or his vape at the side of the pitch. And the old Cookie Monster as well for Scotland when he was kit man. Something. If you're going to do something, make it comedy, make it gold. Bring on the kit man.
Even with that, Ireland's still a very impressive side, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. We talked about the shapes that they put on in attack, how much they've improved in that area. The way they took it to the All Blacks in the autumn, it wasn't a fluke victory. That they're actually class in how they attack now, and they've developed that game. You look at some of the players. Obviously, Mike Lowry, he was great on debut. As I said, could have had a hat trick, should have had a hat trick. Too much of a nice guy. to try and steal the limelight and take the hat-trick. So we passed it on to James Lowe. He'd have definitely scored that for his third.
How smart, not wearing a scrum cap. Knew that Christel's week off fallow week, people need to know what it looks like.
Yeah.
And that was one of the smartest moves. Mike Lowry out in Christel's. And yeah, he was class. A wicked little player. Just so good to watch.
Yeah. Some big performances. Van der Fleer gets man of the match. Friend of the show, Tide Byrne plays really well. You're playing against 13, so you're going to look good. It was reminiscent of Jim versus India when he went the length and scored a hat-trick. Sometimes it just goes for you. Right? And on Sunday for Ireland, everything went in their favour, but they finished a lot of good stuff off. James and Gibson Park played well at 9. It's not a test, though, in terms of what they're going to come up against England. So they'd have wanted stiffer challenges, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and they did pretty well in doing that.
Don't say stiffer, Andrew. It makes me feel funny.
Well, we can have a chat now with someone who knows the Irish camp inside and out. Jacob Stockdale's on the line. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Not too bad. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Jacob, it's class to finally have you on. It's been a long time coming, and we're looking forward to spending some time with you over in Ireland, enjoying a beer in the next week or so. Then when they've all folded into one, it's very soon anyway. I need to ask a question. I need to get it out of the way before we get into the meats and bones of it. Have you had your lid done or not? This is something that's been bugging me.
No, I don't. Actually, but in fairness, like my dad's bald, my granddad's bald, my uncle's bald, so it is common for me, and I've just accepted my fate. When the day comes, it'll get shaved. Like.
That's a compliment. So I'm making a compliment there. Goodey's shaking his head because he was hoping that was the case. But I was just seeing a bit of thinning going on, a bit of lack of foliage, folliculage, whatever you call it. And now I'm seeing a full head of hair and it looks great.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that, Jim. Cheers.
I'll be honest with you, mate. It comes with a man of experience here. It comes from your mother's side, not your father's side. So don't worry about the old man. It's all about you. Yeah, it's all about your mother's side. So look down your mum's side. If it's your mum's brother and he's bald, or your mum's dad and he's bald, you're absolutely fucked. But if it's your dad's side, you're fine.
If my mum's bald, like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, nice.
You're very good.
Mate, yeah, it's great to have you on. And like Jim said, looking forward to having a few beers with you in Dublin in a couple of weeks. More importantly, though, how are you? How's the injury? I know it's been a frustrating period for you. How are things your side?
Yeah, really good now, to be honest. Like you said, it was pretty frustrating for me. Kind of really weird injury, just training ground injury, and kind of tried to rehab it over the first 4 months, and that wasn't working. So went in, got the surgery done, and now I'm kind of like feeling pretty good because I feel like I've got a plan, kind of can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. And yeah, like it is what it is. Everybody gets them. And I'm feeling pretty good about it now.
How far is that light away at the end of the tunnel? Are we talking weeks? We're talking a couple of months still? Are we days?
No, we're talking 6 months really. So 6 months from surgery, which realistically is talking next season. But I've actually I've accepted it now and just kind of looking at the positives, which means I get a full preseason under my belt, which is something I've actually never had before.
I don't look at that as a positive at all, just from my perspective.
Yeah, but I suppose that's pretty true. But it means I can come back next season firing and ready to go. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
I can't imagine the size you're going to be if you get a full pre-season and that you're looking forward to. Absolute monster of a man. But how are things in terms of watching rugby? Do you struggle watching the game? Is it difficult watching Ireland play well, Ulster play well because you're not a part of it, or are you happy for both the teams respectively?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely hard to watch. I think actually the Ulster games have found it tougher. Just because they've been going so well in Europe. That big win against Clermont away is class. So it is tough. Last week when Ulster were playing Dragons away and gale force winds in the piss and rain, it's the first time I've watched the game and I was like, I'm really glad to be injured right now. No, yeah, it is tough, definitely. You just kind of, probably to a certain extent, you just don't, you're scared of being forgotten about,
Yeah, mate, size of you, I don't think anyone's going to forget you and your talents. Just a matter of time when you get back. But one man that he's not benefiting from you being injured, but has certainly burst on the scene in an Ulster jersey and now in an Ireland jersey. Mike Lowry, I just love saying that name. Obviously made his debut at the weekend, scored 2, should have had 3. He's just too nice a guy. He passed it out to James Lowe. Should have had a hat-trick. Talk to us about his development then, because you've played in the back three with him for quite some time now at Ulster, and I've been watching him for a while, and he's been tearing up trees. Can't work out what he's doing though. Scrum cap on, scrum cap off. Some weeks it's on, some weeks it's off. And I didn't recognise him without it.
Yeah, the scrum cap is an interesting one. Like, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. But no, in fairness, like Mikey's a class player, like very, very talented, very naturally gifted, but also incredibly hardworking. He's one of those guys that's in half an hour before training doing his prehab, and like he's in every day on the off days, kicking, all that kind of stuff. Like, the guy works really, really hard. And then he's obviously like got the natural talent on top of it. But to be honest, he's such a good bloke that it's just really, really good to see him kind of get those opportunities now. And like, there was no doubt, I think, from any of the lads that we're talking to in Ulster, there was no doubt from anybody that he was going to take to international rugby the way he did. And we were just really glad to see that he did so well at the weekend. Like you said, he could have. I would have taken the hat trick. Like, no way I was passing that, but he's a lad than I am.
Absolutely, yeah, it was class to see him, and obviously Ireland win comfortably again. What do you make of Ireland? Can we get a gauge on what you think about the team? Because I've always said, Jacob, it's like they don't really get tested that much, both from a Leinster perspective, which, as we know, makes up the majority of the Irish team. It's great to see some of the Ulster lads and Connacht lads in the fold now as well. But when you look at it, and Munster lads, but when you look at it, that game at the weekend, we've arguably not learned anything about Ireland. You know what I mean? The toughest game is probably ahead of them now with England. What do you make of it? Do you think that's a positive or not going into the next game?
Yeah, it's obviously a tough one. I think probably the last game against France away was more of a kind of a litmus test, to be fair, to show where they are rather than the Italy game on the weekend. I think, with all due respect to Italy, when you have them at home in the Six Nations and then they go down to 13 men and eventually 12, it's not a particularly good test for a team like Ireland who are performing very well at the moment. But I actually thought, although they didn't win the game, I think the way the lads performed against France was really impressive, especially with the way France were going and the way France then subsequently played against Scotland at the weekend. It shows the form they're in, and the fact that the lads were able to push them so close in Paris, I thought was really impressive. I think next week will be a huge test for them. I think it will be completely different to the Italy game, and I genuinely don't know which way it's going to go. I really don't. If it was in Ireland, I think I would be fairly confident that Ireland would pick it up, but just being in Twickenham, it's a completely different ballgame.
And speaking to some of the lads that are in the squad, which I presume you are in regular contact with, there's obviously been a massive change in terms of results over the last sort of year, hasn't it, really? From absolutely pulling our pants down in the Six Nations last year in that last game to beating the All Blacks to now actually the form and the shapes that they've put on attack and the accuracy. Has much changed, or is it just that squad are more cohesive together now? They understand how the coaches want them to play and they just get better at what they do week in, week out? Or has there been some seismic shift in an actual tactical change that's gotten to this point? Because they're on fire.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any major changes, to be honest. I think, with the way that Joe Schmidt wanted us to play, it was very, everybody has the role and they do their role down to a T, and if we do that, then we win. I think, when Faz came over, I think he brought a pretty different approach to it. He kind of was very much, I suppose, Faz along with Mike Catt, brought this attacking structure, kind of going, look, you guys are smart rugby players, you're all very talented. You can recognize the space and you need to just move the ball to that space. So I think, in fairness, that's the kind of shape that takes a while to get used to, and it takes a while to get everybody on the same page. So I think that's really what you're seeing there was the first couple of months. It took a while for the team to kind of get into shape, but once they did, then they were able to start firing, and now you're seeing the fruits of that, where they're just playing great rugby.
Man, they look phenomenal. They look really, really good. One of the things, Jacob, and we're good mates with Stevie Ferris. He's been on the show loads. We've had him at live shows. Chatting to him, And without looking too far forward, and I hate talking about World Cups because I think winning a Six Nations and a Grand Slam, I know Ireland can't this year, but winning the Six Nations Championship is enough in itself. But surely this Irish team are looking forward to the World Cup because notoriously in years gone by, Ireland have struggled. Do you think that's something they're speaking about in camp? Is it something they're speaking about, or is it about the Six Nations?
Well, I mean, see, I haven't been in camp in a while now, but we had a camp like before the start of this season, and you know, it was made very clear that over the next 2 years that was the goal, you know, to push towards being in form at the right time for the World Cup. So yeah, I think it's definitely a goal of theirs. And obviously, I'm hoping that I'll be able to have a bit of involvement in that as well. But yeah, no, I think Ireland, you know, has pretty famously underperformed at pretty much every World Cup, you know, we've been at, and that's definitely disappointing for the playing group that I've been involved with and the playing group right now, you know. So I think it'll definitely be a goal moving forward, and you know, it's just about peaking at the right time, isn't it? Really, for those World Cup cycles.
Looking ahead, you guys have also got this tour to New Zealand, which they're already starting to talk about in New Zealand, especially after a couple of big wins you guys have had over them recently. What are the expectations for that series?
Well, I mean, New Zealand's never an easy place to go, and it's definitely like that. There are going to be 3 tough tests. So, I mean, obviously the goal is to win those games. You know, like that's always going to be the goal, and you know, I think probably a realistic goal would be just to try and win the series. I don't think, you know, in New Zealand you're ever going to win all 3, and I think, you know, winning the series is a massive achievement in itself. So that'll definitely be the goal. Whether that actually happens or not, I think we'll see, because you know, I'd say, yeah, there's a lot of New Zealanders that were pretty hurt by the game in November, and you know, they're going to come out all guns blazing, and it's a different ball game playing at home than it is playing away.
Yeah, it certainly is. Look at the Kiwi, he's still bitter about that defeat, and he's like, we're going to smash you in the summer. Let's go back to Ulster then, because Ulster are going pretty well at the minute. Obviously second in the table in the URC, into the knockout stage of Europe as well. Really positive place to be. I've been involved in a few games of BT Sport that Ulster have played in, and playing some decent rugby. Hume in the centres is ridiculously good at the minute as well, and there seems to be a real feel-good factor coming out of there.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Like it's been a fantastic place to be involved with for the last kind of year and a half, 2 years. You know, now that Dan McFarland has come in and really stamped his authority on it, it's been class. Yeah, like it's a similar vibe to the Ireland team. You know, that kind of, you know where the ball needs to be and get it to space. And when you have lads like Neil Coomer and Mikey Lowry and like Rob Balakoon, Ethan McElroy, all these boys in the, you know, as outside backs, like they're dangerous attackers and they're able to shift the ball, you know. Jimmer's been brilliant, I thought, this season. You know, he's really matured as a player and has really, you can see it on the pitch, you know. Hasn't matured that much off the pitch, like, but he was actually at my wedding. He was in a fountain in his boxers at 4 a.m. So he was. So
I like him even more.
Yeah, he hasn't matured that much. Like,
oh, that's class. Jacob, lastly from me, can I call you Stockhorse or not? Do I just call you Jacob? Are we mates now ahead of the live show? What do I call you?
You can call me whatever you want.
Okay, Stockhorse. That makes us sound more connected. Just call me Big Horse. My old coach used to call me Big Horse.
They called you the donkey, horse. Jim. Mate, they called you the donkey.
They did. They did call me the donkey. Big Horse sounds better. From an Irish perspective, going into this game against England, we know they're always massive games. Just give us a kind of insight into the Irish camp when they come up against the English, and what you think about England as well, because we're trying to dissect it. And my opinion is we don't really know how good this England team are, and we know that there's 2 big games for them, Ireland and France, coming up. But what do you make of it leading into this game in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, in terms of the messaging that's going to be, like, what I imagine is going to be through the week, it's going to be, you know, down to physicality. You know, you look at probably the last 3 or 4 Six Nations games between Ireland and England, and you know, it does come down to physicality. Who's the more physically dominant team on the day? So obviously, with a kind of pretty new look England team, I think that's potentially going to be an opportunity for Ireland to, try and stamp that physical dominance early on. But like you said, it is a New England team. There's some very exciting players who have come into the fold now, and on their day, you never know what they're going to be able to do. So I think it's going to be a cracking game. I'm going over to watch it, and I can't wait, to be honest. So I think it'll be a good one.
Yeah, it certainly will. Now, Jim mentioned, can he call you the stock horse? We talk about you when you're fit and firing on the podcast a bit, and I said you're the stock horse because you're as big as a horse and you run like a racehorse, so it's a massive compliment. What is your nickname? Have you got a nickname? Is it something that you're happy to share with the millions on the podcast?
Do you know what? I actually don't. I don't have a nickname now. Like Jake.
The stock horse it is then. The stock horse it is then.
Hey, I'll call you stock horse. You call me big horse or hard horse, whichever one. I'm happy with that.
All right, stock horse. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, mate, and best of luck getting over that injury.
No worries. Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, mate. We'll see you in Dublin.
All right. Catch you later. Bye. Bye.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers,
mate. To it. Top bloke, top lad.
Yeah. What, mate? What are you starting off with the hair banter for? He used to have
just been something that's bugging me.
Well, he had the flowing locks, and then he made. I think he was on fire for a bit with the long hair. Then he shaved it off, and when he shaved it off, he looked like one of the Cobskins that was out.
He did. He genuinely looked like Cobskin. He looked like Cobskin and his Polish mate Phil. And I mentioned to Stevie Ferris, I was like, "Why has he shaved his hair?" And Stevie said to me, "He's going thin." Now we know that Stevie Ferris.
He's thinner than thin, Stevie Ferris.
He's gone. He's effectively gone. He's effectively bald.
I'll be blowing that off when I see him. You could literally blow the last few whiskers of Stevie Ferris's hair off his head, especially now he's had a kid as well.
So that's why. So that's why I had to ask the question, because it was bugging me. Because when I'm commentating or whenever I see stock horse, I'm like, "Is he? Isn't he?" And he said his mum's bald, did he? Is that what he said?
I think he did say that, yeah. Lovely guy. It's something about these Northern Irish boys. They're good lads, aren't they? Genuinely are. They come on, they're very humble. Nice guy. Like he is on fire and on form and fitness. You'd hate to try and stop him. Would you smash him, Jim, or not? Probably not. It'd skin you alive, wouldn't he?
Well, the old me, I probably would have. If I just hit him straight on, I probably would have sat him down, yeah. But
I don't
anyway,
think so.
I'm long gone. I'm long past it. That's the bit. It's like, when you look at players now and you look at stock horse and you look at Mike Lowry, and people say, "Who's the hardest player you've ever come up against?" Do you know what I mean? And that's something that gets thrown around all the time. For me, it was two things. One was the Georgian winger. I can't even remember his name. He was the size of stock horse who sat me down in the 2011 World Cup when Georgia nearly beat us. And the other one would be like a Mike Lowry or a Shane Williams that would skin you, and then you'd be on their highlight reels forever. That's what scared me the most. So I hope to see him get back. It must be tough. It must be tough watching Ireland doing really well, and he was part of that kind of growth and the evolution under Andy Farrell as well, and also as well who've struggled in recent years, who are now coming to the fore and looking really good. So lovely bloke, great to have him on. Looking forward to sharing 15 responsibly with him, Guinness's on the live show soon.
Well, let's have a look at your match point results then. Goodey, you're on fire. 3 correct predictions and calling the England margin of victory. So you're up to 329th. Well done.
Well,
Jim.
just know my ruggers, don't I? Jim, how are you getting on?
Well, I forgot to press play. I genuinely forgot to press load this weekend. I didn't do all 3. I obviously spoke about it last week and I didn't press play. And then I was in denial before the Italy-Ireland game that I thought if I did that, then I would have obviously got it right. But then I couldn't make the excuse today, so I didn't bother doing that one either. So I am going for Italy to beat Scotland next week, Wales to put 50 on France, and England to beat Ireland.
Well, you're in 2,550th place, Jim.
Embarrassing. Well, all right, well, yeah, okay. I'll fall on my sword.
Make sure you get your predictions in early and don't forget to claim some of the thousands of pints that are won every week. And if you want to win a few more, check out the Match Pint quiz on Thursday. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Goodey. Thanks, producer Tristan. And thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube and make sure you've subscribed on Spotify.
Rugby Spot.
Pod.